Kia ora guys, welcome back to the Black Jersey. My name's Max, I'm the host of this channel, and a big thank you to my patrons as per normal. For today's video, we're going to be looking at the World Cup squad for Scotland. I'm currently working on a very long analysis video on them ahead of the World Cup, so I thought I would drop this video to give you guys a bit of a reprieve if you're feeling a bit deprived of Scotland content. So obviously I'm going to look at who I think Gregor Townsend is going to select. Every team's going to be 33 players, so we'll get into it from here, starting with the hookers. And their first choice player, George Turner, is pretty easily going to be making the team. He's played massive minutes since the end of the 2019 World Cup. He's only played 35 tests at 30 years old, so he's been a bit of a late bloomer, but he's looked very good every single time I've watched Scotland since that World Cup. I've seen about 30 of their games or so, I think he's reasonably got the trust from Gregor Townsend. Now over to Fraser Brown. He's able to cover flanker off the bench, so typically wears jersey number 16, but experience of his 61 tests at 33 years old, it can't be discounted. He's a very ferocious player at the breakdown, and considering who's in the Scotsman's pool, they're going to need that dynamism off the bench, honestly. Fraser Brown will be looking to finish his career off on a high, so I'm wishing him all the best for that. He's played the second most minutes behind Turner, so I'm pretty confident he'll be going. The fact that he plays for Glasgow Warriors is definitely going to help his case too. The third choice, I believe, is going to be Ewan Ashman. He's recently signed to leave Sale Sharks, head to Edinburgh, and after 7 test caps, he's looking to be one of the real bright spots of the next generation of Scotland players. He's actually pretty mobile, pretty dynamic, reminds me a bit of a young Samisoni Taukei'aho, that Ewan Ashman over there. He's going to be an absolute menace in the future for opposition to deal with, and there's no better way to train him up for the future than to get him to a World Cup. Now over to the props. Pierre Schoeman is the first choice loosehead prop. He's been playing very well. He's a little bit shorter than a few of the other props that are going around, but man, he is powerful, really low center of gravity, staunch carrier. He's got no regard for his body. He's just going to charge at you full steam, and I've absolutely loved to see him play recently. Roy Sutherland has had his fair share of well-documented injury troubles, but I do think we can't discount the fact that he's played 2 tests for the British and Irish Lions. The 30-year-old, he's got a bit of experience, though it doesn't necessarily show in test caps, and the form he showed earlier in this World Cup cycle I think will carry him through to this World Cup, as Scotland don't necessarily have the best depth at prop, as we can see with Jamie Batty, who's probably going to be their third choice. 29 years old, 28 tests. I don't have a crazy amount to say about him, but he's the guy that has earned the trust from Townsend, so I'm expecting him to just keep things consistent at prop, keep experienced players in the mix, since they don't quite have the out-and-out talent of a nation like South Africa. Xander Fagerson, he is the one exception to that rule though. He's been playing unbelievably well in the Gregor Townsend era. 58 tests at 27 years old. He's become a real experienced player and a genuine go-to. He's nearly racked up 2,000 minutes in this era, for crying out loud. I don't think I have to say much more about him. He's just crazy good, and his spot's guaranteed. VP Nell, WP Nell, he's also surpassed 50 tests. He's got 54 in total. At 36 years old, he is definitely getting to the tether end of his career, but you know what, experience when there's not the out and out talent, that is the way to go. That's how World Cups are won. I don't have any problems with that. Simon Bergen probably fills into that same category. He's also played at the 2019 World Cup, much like how Nell did. Bergen, born in New Zealand, but has really kicked on for Scotland to earn 33 test caps despite getting a fair few injuries, so he's probably going to be the safest bet as their third choice tight head prop. We're now going to head over to the locks to see the only player of the 2011 Rugby World Cup squad there that is still active, Richie Gray. He's had a fair share of injuries, but the modern game very much suits him, and so he's now peaking at the age of 33 years old. He's played 74 tests, so he's got a wealth of experience, especially considering this is going to be his third World Cup. At 2.05 meters tall as well, he is a weapon in the line-out that you cannot discount. After a few starts at the number 4 jersey for the Six Nations this year, I do think he's going to retain that role at the World Cup. Grant Gilchrist, he did get a red card, but with 62 tests and having captained the team before, I do think he's a pretty safe bet considering he's also got his frame of 118 kgs to just charge at his opposition. He's going to make a very big difference at the breakdown against the Springboks in particular, as is Johnny Gray off the bench. I wasn't 100% sure whether to put him on this list, but with 77 their test cap, I couldn't discount him. He's 29 years old, so could reasonably reach 100 still as well. 6'6", 121 kgs. You just need these guys to go into the dark spaces and do the dirty work, and considering his weight, he's perfect to do that in a bomb squad type game. Knowing Gregor Townsend though, there's always going to be someone that's coming out of nowhere, and I think that for the World Cup, this title is going to go to Cameron Henderson, who is in their Six Nations squad for this year. He's uncapped at 23 years old, but he's actually unbelievably good. Like, I've seen his highlights. He's got a kicking game, he's got a lot of pace, a solid line-out option at 6'7" as well, and considering Gregor Townsend's fondness for bringing new guys out of nowhere, I can see Henderson making the squad after all the hype that's being generated around him. Over to blindside flanker, I do think Scott Cummings is going to miss the cut, because I have this gut instinct that Scotland will go for a 6-2 split off the bench, and with Sam Skinner in the team, he'll be able to wear jersey 20 and cover both lock and 6. He missed the 2019 Rugby World Cup, so we won't be taking his spot for granted, and at 6'5", he's a very reliable line-out option as well. They are going to have to balance that line-out with Hamish Watson at 7, so he's going to get into the team, I think. Scott Cummings, unlucky perhaps, but with Gray in, the two Gray brothers rather, it's okay. Jamie Ritchie at flanker. He's the captain, he's a star, he's a monster at the breakdown, and of course he's very reliable in the line-out. At 26 years old, he's surpassed 41 tests, and he's just been in absolutely phenomenal form right now, Jamie Ritchie. Captaincy suits him very well, and with the Scotland squad having a settled leader, I do think that's going to be very good for them psychologically. Hamish Watson, who I mentioned before, British and Irish line, 2021 Six Nations player of the tournament, 58 test caps. He's just a genuine battering ram with ball in hand. He's going into the team, no questions about it. And Rory Darge, I believe, is probably the guy who's earned his marks to be the backup for Watson. Rory Darge, he's not the biggest guy, he's only 100 kgs and 6'1", but after his 7 test caps, he has looked the goods. Townsend's had the confidence to start him a few times, and you know, this Glasgow Warrior man, I do think he is the future of the open side for Scotland, so there's no better way to get him in for a World Cup. Matt Fagerson, a young man at 24 years old, has now got 33 tests. He'll be very reliable as a key decision maker for the team with his power off the base of the scrum. He's a truly just genuine mobile loose forward, and he almost reminds me kind of a Scottish Kieran Reid. The backup number 8 who I see wearing jersey number 21 for a 6-2 bench split, that would have to be Jack Dempsey, who used to play for the Wallabies. He's played a combined total of 23 tests, including 9 for Scotland. He's played a fair few minutes at number 8 and a fair few at 7 since he made his debut, and with a bit of a revolving door at number 8, like Magnus Bradbury, Cornell Dupree, Nick Haining. There's been so many picks that have gone into that jersey since the last World Cup, and I think Jack Dempsey coming in at the last minute to give a bit of stability won't harm them at all. I do think Jack Dempsey's got a pretty decent chance of making the squad for his carrying as well. Just a really classic case of Rugby Australia stuffing it up big time here, and we'll just have a bit of an ad break as well before we get over to the backs. Now we're over to the backs. 2019's top try scorer for Scotland was George Horne, who got a hat-trick in the pool stage. He was very good at that tournament as well. He's still playing decently right now. He's got 20 test caps at 27 years old, so it's a pretty safe bet to go for him, as he has proven himself at a previous World Cup. He has had some injuries, but he's playing well right now, so nothing to worry about there. Ben White, I do think that Ali Price will be used off the bench to close games out, so I can see Ben White continuing to start. He's only played 14 tests at 24 years old, but he has been unbelievably good ever since he scored that try in his debut. I knew he was going to be something special. When he finally got called into the Scotland squad, I was very excited to see what he can do. He's lived up to the hype, and he's definitely going to go to the World Cup, as is Price, who I mentioned before. Played 3 tests for the British and Irish Lions in 2021, and has played 64 tests in total at 29 years old. He's still young enough to play 100 tests, and the fact that he's from the Glasgow Warriors just adds to the whole cohesion of the team's spine. I truly believe Ali Price will make a massive difference off the bench as he did during the Six Nations. Finn Russell's obviously going to be picked as well. He's now reached 70 tests, the Racing 92 number 10. Gregor Townsend has kind of squashed the beef with Russell, so I do believe Russell is going to be making the team. Blair Kinghorn, I'm not 100% sure if he's actually seen as a genuine 10 or just a utility, but he's played more minutes at 10 than a few of the other specialists due to his versatility off the bench, and with 43 tests, he's really starting to fulfill that potential. He's got a lot of pace at the front line, he's got a great kicking game, and he's got a pretty decent amount of bulk at 107 kgs as well, so he can really just assist with those tight channels if need be. Adam Hastings, who played in the 2019 Rugby World Cup, he has had a few injuries. He's only played 27 tests after debuting all the way back in 2018, but Hastings, after really thriving earlier in this World Cup cycle, I do believe with my gut he can make his way into this team based on his reputation, and with Kinghorn I think seen as more of that utility, I do believe the data against Hastings on the depth chart is a little bit distorted due to his injuries. We now go over to the centres, and Hugh Jones is an obvious pick. Huey Pilotu was a crazy good midfield combo. Jones is absolutely thriving in Gregor Townsend, loosening the game plan a little bit to help the natural talent of the team excel, and the 102 kg frame of Hugh Jones has seen him become one of Scotland's highest ever try scorers. He's taken his career tally to 16 off 36 tests. Cameron Redpath I do think is going to make the team as well. He's also a guy that's been having a fair few injuries, but as a second choice player he really offers the value of being a kicking game player, a bit of a stepper. He's got a bit of a power game, he makes massive hits on defence. I do believe Cameron Redpath can indeed make a difference in the pool stages, and of course the fact that he was picked for Eddie Jones's England aged 18 but then chose to play for Scotland, who his father Brian also played for, that definitely helps annoy the opposition a bit more when it comes to the playoffs should they make it. Sione Tuipulotu, who I mentioned before, he's very similar to Redpath, though he's a bit shorter. He's 104 kgs and 5'10", but he's got a great kicking game, a great offload game, and he's been playing absolutely brilliantly as of late, so he's a definite pick for this squad, that's Sione Tuipulotu. Now for a bit of a controversial take, I do think there's only going to be 3 midfielders in the squad, because Kyle Steyn, who captains the Glasgow Warriors, he's been in incredible form right now, and I considered him very much for my Six Nations team of the tournament. Should Blair Kinghorn be unavailable, I think he's a decent utility value to bring off the bench to cover 13, 11 and 14, that Kyle Steyn. As he's getting a little bit older, he'll probably be looking to make centre his genuine position going forward, and as the modern game plan that Scotland have adapted into doesn't quite suit Chris Harris, who's quite simply barely had any action this year, I just kind of have that gut feeling that Chris Harris could be left out of the team. Anyway, on to the more specialist wingers, since Steyn can't really be left out due to form. We do have to discuss the starting two. Darcy Graham, he was missed very much in the Six Nations, but after his 33 test caps, he's joined Hugh Jones to score 16 career tries with Scotland. He's almost like a Scottish Cheslin Colby, and I was very happy to have him in my 2022 World 15 because he is class. He is going to come back into the team, and he is going to thrive in this tournament, as is Duhan van der Merwe, especially when he takes on his nation of birth, South Africa, in the pool stage. At 6'4" and 107 kgs, he adds that power out wide, and he can come into that 12 channel if they do want to have a crash ball runner running at the likes of Dialendi or Henshaw after a scrum. Van der Merwe is very surprisingly agile for a guy that's so big, and he's a try-scoring machine with 17 off 31 tests, including 3 for the British and Irish Lions. He is a freak. He is one of the world's best players, so he's going to be in the tournament, no doubt. Ollie Smith, who made his debut for Scotland against Chile and has since played 3 test caps, as that was for Scotland A. Ollie Smith appears to be the heir apparent to Stuart Hogg, as all 3 of his tests have been accumulated very recently. He's 22 years old and is a very exciting player, and so Gregor Townsend, who's always got his eye on what's the next big thing, he will likely likely want to bring Ollie Smith to this tournament ahead of Chris Harris at centre because longevity very much matters. Stuart Hogg, the final player on this list, he's an obvious pick. The team is in glorious form, much like his glorious current haircut. 102 Test veteran, including 2 for the Lions after going on 3 tours. The man is the greatest Scottish player of all time, so I'm going to end this video by saying I hope Stuart Hogg, he finishes it out with a bang and they can make the quarter or semi-finals. That'll be the end of today's video, so you guys can support me over on Instagram or Twitter to see what I post elsewhere. You can also become one of my amazing patrons who I showed at the start of the video, or make a wee donation to my PayPal tip jar if you just want to do a one-off donation to keep this channel going. Thank you very much for watching this video. Good luck to Scotland for the World Cup, and I'll see you in the next video, guys. Cheers from Max.